What is biophotonics? Well, bio is short for biology. Photonics is the physics of light. Biophotonics uses sophisticated imaging and other sensitive optical instruments to conduct biomedical research. Biophotonics has a range of uses, from medical diagnosis to drug screening. In the golden years of animated film, teams of animators would draw every single illustration by hand. Today, they do much of their work by computer, but that doesn't mean it's any less artistic. It all starts with a screenplay, a script containing not just dialogue, but also physical descriptions of the characters and background scenery. The art director begins creating the characters. He draws in pencil. When he's finished, he traces the drawing in felt pen. Then he erases the pencil marks. He adds shadowing to create relief. Once he's drawn all the characters, he starts the backgrounds. And then the objects that appear in the backgrounds. The storyboard artist blocks out the film on paper, drawing by drawing. The production team will follow this storyboard the way a dressmaker follows a pattern. They blow up the drawings, scan them into the computer, then play them back in chronological order. This creates what's called an animatic, a two-dimensional version of the film minus the animation. Should the director now decide to change, say, a ground-level view of the street to an aerial view, he has the artist redraw the street from that new angle. Meanwhile, the animators work on bringing the characters to life. Using specialized software, they build a skeleton to fit inside the character's body. When they move the skeleton, the software makes the body move with it. They make the characters three-dimensional using a technique called wireframe animation. First, they build the shape of the character using a wire structure. Then they add color and clothing. They further refine the character by modifying facial features, by adding texture, and by shadowing. They use specialized software to synchronize the character's mouth with the dialogue. The technician works syllable by syllable, picking the mouth movement that matches each sound. It's a painstaking process that takes many months. Another animator applies the lighting effects. Lighting is as important in an animated cartoon as it is in a movie with real people. It creates relief, making everything look more realistic. The animators cut and paste the characters and objects onto the backgrounds. With the characters' movements programmed into the computer, the animators turn the two-dimensional stills version of the film into a three-dimensional animation, essentially a rough cut of the film. Meanwhile, in the studio, the soundtrack takes shape. Actors record the characters' dialogue. The sound technician weaves together the voices, the music, and the sound effects using specially designed software. They sync the soundtrack to the rough cut of the film. Then they refine the rough cut, playing with colors and textures and smoothing out the characters' movements. After a full year's work, and more than 42,000 drawings. This 24-minute computer-animated film is finally finished.
Like all cheeses, mozzarella starts from milk. To assure good milk quality, the interior and exterior of tank trucks transporting milk must be washed after being emptied. A tank such as this one can carry an average of 30,000 liters of raw milk at a temperature of 3 or 4 degrees centigrade. Raw milk destined for cheese making contains 3.8% fats and 3.3% proteins. They store the milk and whey, a milk byproduct, in these immense silos, each with a capacity of 225,000 liters. This milk separator extracts surplus cream to adjust the percentage of fat according to the type of cheese to be made. Fabrication begins with this tank, which feeds the pasteurizer. Pasteurization sterilizes beverages which can easily ferment. Milk samples are drawn off to precisely determine their milk fat and protein content. Tests are carried out in this laboratory where they impose controls. These test tubes contain milk samples which will undergo microbiological analysis. Milk quality must be impeccable. This is a curdler with a 25,000-liter capacity into which milk and other essential ingredients for making mozzarella are introduced, such as the enzyme rennet that curdles the milk. This mix must be well stirred and cooked. The agitators are used to cut the whey into little lumps. This step takes about 30 minutes. The temperature of the tanks depends on the type of cheese they're making. Agitators continue stirring the milk. Once cooking is done, the whey is pumped onto tables to be drained. It stays there for about 25 minutes. The solid and the liquid are now well separated. The liquid we see draining is called lactoserum. The lactoserum will be concentrated and transformed into milk byproducts. The water has been almost entirely extracted and the cheese particles are now sufficiently dry. This large automated blade then moves cheese particles towards the next step. That is, toward the molder. In the molder, the cheese is cut up before being carried to the cooker, the final processing step. It appears that this mozzarella has just the right texture. The cheese finally arrives at the molder, which will give it the proper shape. Each mold has a 2.5 kilo capacity and is rectangular. Brine, a salt solution, serves to cool as well as to salt the cheese blocks. The blocks are unmolded and fall into a brine tank. Following on, the cheese blocks will remain in another brine solution for a while. They are then carried by a conveyor towards another tank, where they will be immersed for 4 to 10 hours at a temperature of 2 degrees centigrade. Sprays of brine remove the foam which forms at the surface of the tank. The 30,000 liters of milk that we saw coming in by truck at the beginning have enabled them to produce some 1,400 blocks of cheese in only 8 to 12 hours. The cheese blocks are finally vacuum packed, ready for shipment.